Calling this meeting to order, Monday, February 24th, 6 p.m. Crosby, would you do roll call, please?
Jason. Mike.
Here.
Jake.
Here.
Jim.
Here.
Dale.
Here.
Eric. Here. Carolyn.
Here.
Craig.
Here.
Crosby here.
This is an open meeting and it has been posted. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, up first is citizens' comments. Do we have any?
We do. Would Deb Sweechek please come forward? You have 3 minutes, and I'll give you a 30-second warning. Thank you.
Hello, Deb.
Oh, turn it on.
There we are.
Hi. I just wanted to say a few things about the scoreboard part of the agenda. I just wish we would have seen some other bids from other companies. Unless I missed it, I thought that would have been good to see. And then the scoreboard, do we really need to have something that shows pictures and little sayings? I mean, can we just have a scoreboard? Do we have to have some real fancy thing and the cost goes up? I think it was said that they would show the graduates going across the stage or whatever. Well, I don't think we hold the ceremonies here anyways. So, I don't know, it's just something I wanted to bring up. Thanks.
Thank you.
Time's up, Deb. Thank you.
Any other? All right. All right, closed comments are done. Going on to consent agenda, looking for the approval of the committee of the whole meeting minutes of February 10th, 2025, and approval of vouchers and receipts. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, that's approved by consent. We'll move on to personnel topics. Director's report.
We do not have a report this evening.
Okay. Do we have any for student learning?
Yep.
Okay.
Just director's report. So at the committee of the whole meeting, I had 2 informational items. The first was just an overview of the standardized assessment plan for the district. And the second was an update on our curriculum renewal work, specifically our secondary ELA and science pilots, and then our elementary ELA research work. And more information about both of those things will be coming back to the board in April and May. And that's all I have.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Now to student service topics.
I just have the director's report, and that was just a recap of the Aspire program that came to present last time. They were really excited. The feedback was really great from families, and so I appreciate all of you taking the time and just the interest in the program. So
That was great.
thank you.
That was awesome.
It was good.
Any questions for Christine? Thank you. Finance and facilities director's report.
All right, so a couple questions I'm going to answer here. One came from Crosby and one came from Jake in January, I believe. So Crosby, you had asked about the decoupling bill and what kind of effect that would have on Mukwonago. I showed this graph back in October, I believe. This shows Kettle Moraine, Mukwonago, Muskego, and Waukesha in regards to how much is in our tax levy that goes to pay for students that attend private voucher schools. So we are the orange bars, obviously a lot less than Waukesha, but this really shows that every school district is in this upward trajectory of the tax levy is increasing. This element of the tax levy is increasing to pay for students who attend private voucher schools, okay? Our value this past year was $1.48 million. The decoupling bill, in essence, what it does is it's state government's way, if this bill were to pass, to say we're going to take this off of your local property tax levy. We're going to fund this through some other type of revenue source and say it has nothing to do with public schools, and we are going to decouple the two. So if that happened, then obviously our tax levy would go down, which would be great. The way that it was proposed is that there would be some additional revenues for us, but the probability of this actually happening is slim to none. This is a 300 statewide tax levy goes up $300 million to pay for students that attend private voucher schools. So if this were to be taken off local property taxes, then there would be a new $300 line item that the legislature would say, how do we pay for this? Where's the money coming from? Currently, it's coming from property taxes. So, they collect that 5% sales tax. That's on everything we buy. They could pay for that through gross purpose revenue or some other source, but it's probably not going to happen. Would we support this? Yeah. I don't think it's happening, though. Did I answer your question there, Crosby?
Thank you. I know that Milwaukee has decoupled, and I think Racine was in the process of doing it as well. Do we have the option, or is that no longer an option since they moved away from the individual city school choice program to the statewide school choice program?
So I believe that there's 4 statewide programs. There's the Milwaukee Parental Choice Program, Racine Parental Choice Program, the Special Needs Scholarship Program, and then the statewide one that's like everything else that isn't Racine or Milwaukee. But at the end of I guess I don't know enough about Milwaukee and Racine, but we don't have an option to say, hey, can we do this ourselves? That is not an option.
Okay.
Joe, am I missing anything on that? No. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to go through a couple budget things here. Jim, you're I guess new to some of this information, so I'm going to just quickly explain this. So in the packet here, I'm going to just highlight a couple things. One is every time we meet here and I give a director's report, I'm just letting you know how our payroll is progressing. I have 3 exhibits here. We just completed our 18th payroll of the school year. So what I do is these ones in yellow are the 4 prior years, and then I look at where were we, or I guess where are we and where are we going. And so then I basically build these into percentages. And so we are 56.6%. I know there's a lot of numbers on the screen. I apologize that it's not big. But I can project forward and say if we are 56.6% of the way into our budget, based on history, we are going to land right here, which puts us at about 99% of our overall budget, which means we'll be 1% under budget regarding salaries. That's the biggest line item. That's the one we should all be concerned with the most. So I have no concerns about this at this time, okay? So just giving you guys an update on that. I'll do that every month as we go forward. The following exhibit, so as you take a look at, this is Fund 10, this is Fund 21, so on and so forth. All of our funds are there. And then there's 9 buckets below it. The first one is employee salaries, so we have 29.7 for the budget. Here's how much we've expensed or encumbered, and here's how much of the budget we have remaining. So it's my job to say, is 43.1% enough to pay the remainder of the school year? I just said, yep, we're good. I think there will be 1% left in this bucket when all things are said and done. And I look at each of the funds, employee benefits, purchase services, supplies, equipment, et cetera, and just say, how are we doing? We're doing fine. I have no concerns to share with you guys at this time. So that's just kind of state of the union real quick regarding our budget. You guys have any questions about that? I'll keep sharing this with you at each board meeting as we move through the rest of the second semester. For our bank balances, I gave a quick memo here. I shared this with you last time. The last sheet here, I have a graph that shows you where we were at the month of December. As I said at the last meeting, and I'll make this just a little bit bigger here, this November is our low water month, and regarding our cash position, we had $8.7 million of cash available at the end of November. So again, if the board were to ask, how much could we spend on one-time initiatives, whatever it might be that you have, whatever needs the district might have, that's the amount of money. If we had less than that, then we'd have to short-term borrow, which we could do, but it's nice not to. Then you don't have to pick up that extra interest cost by borrowing money. Many school districts do that, by the way. Most school districts, I dare say, do short-term borrow because they don't have enough fund balance available. But we're in an awesome spot. That's the point there. And then lastly, Jake, you had asked a question about last year's FTE projection. And I'll get back up to that here. So let me just make that a little bit smaller. So last year, we projected, I think we adopted a budget assumption of minus 25. We were projecting, and these are all the grade levels. This is 4K, 5K, first, second, third, goes all the way down to 12th grade. We were projecting a minus 30. What actually happened was a minus 60, okay? The reason being is that we were really close at almost every grade level, but 5K. Predicting 5K is hard to do, and you're just wondering as these kids come to you for the first time fully, well, how many of you are there? You have a kind of an idea of how many kids are coming because they attend 4K, but 4K is not compulsory. Kids don't always attend 4K for whatever reasons the family might have. So it's kind of guesswork on 4K and 5K. Once you have your 5K class in, you know what they look like as first graders when they come back, as second graders as they come back. So we were close, but we missed on the 5K piece. We were basically pretty close across the board in every other grade level. So as we adopted this year's minus 125 FTE, we'll talk next year in February to see how we did. But I think it's a reasonable assumption that we've adopted at this time.
And just to be clear then, what we're really talking about, so the budgeting would be based on the higher of what we actually have on that third Friday or the 3-year average.
So what I do is
Prior to
I
that.
plug the minus 125 in. That goes into our 3-year average, and we build the number off of that. So we already know last year's FTE
Right.
and the year prior. So we basically put a minus 125 in there and move forward.
Got it.
Okay?
you.
Yeah. And that's the director's report.
Thank you. Moving on to action items, hires, retirements, and resignations.
So tonight we have 2 retirement notices. We have Chris Butler, who is a 2nd grade teacher at Rolling Hills Elementary. And we have Ann Leanna, who is a teacher at Parkview Elementary School, one of our family and consumer science teachers. Looking for a motion to pass those.
I make a motion that we approve the retirement notices.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the retirements. Are there any questions or comments? Carolyn?
Just a wonderful thank you to both of them for their service.
Any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion carries. Moving on to 2025-26 budget assumption and goals.
All right, so we're looking to continuing to build the budget out. We adopted all of our revenue assumptions at the last meeting. We have a minus 125 FTE. We assume we're going to get a plus 325 per student. Basically, everything else stays status quo for the most part. So now we're going to adopt some expenditure assumptions. What I'm recommending is that CPI was 2.95%. Let's go ahead and adopt that in our budget. Obviously, there's a long ways to go. Things will change. We'll begin negotiations with the teachers union at some point in the future. But to build this budget, we will put that in for a salary assumption, salary increase assumption. And then for the health insurance, I'm recommending that we do a plus 10%. You know, as I talk to fully insured districts around the area, the standard is plus 20 and plus 30. We found something that inflates at a much slower level. So I think we're doing everything we can to keep that, but to be reasonable with ourselves, hopefully it comes in at a plus 5, you know, something like that. But let's just go here and keep this thing conservative in nature, plan for, you know, kind of the worst and hope for the best. And then lastly, I'm recommending here at the bottom, number 3, is the overall budget goal. If we could adopt just, let's build a balanced budget where revenues equal expenditures in the general fund and Fund 10. The focus needs to be on Fund 10 at this time. So those are my recommendations to you that we use to build our budget as we move forward.
Do you want individual action for each of those?
Oh, I think you could. Well, that's up to you guys. If somebody wants to make a motion, we accept all 3.
I'd like to make a motion, we accept all 3.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the budget assumptions and goals. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Up next, scoreboard update.
All right, I'm going to ask Andy Trudell is going to come join us here. Deb, got your comments here. We are going to address that here. So tonight, I guess, you know, we have an update as my memo spelled out that we have $390,000 raised from private donations so far. The all-in cost for the scoreboard itself, the installation, and some other services needed to connect the electrical supply and the fiber optics, the all-in number is $625,000. So we've secured just about $400,000. We have a little bit more work to do. We talked about this about 4 weeks ago. So in 4 weeks' time, $400,000 has been raised. And so we're bringing this, I guess, to potentially for action. It's your choice if you like to table this and wait, or if you say we're comfortable with where things are and we'd like to move forward. We still have some more. The major spots on the scoreboard have, for the most part, been taken care of. But if you're comfortable with where we are, we have $125,000 in sponsorships remaining, which if we sell all of that out, that will put us at $515,000. That's how much we would draw in 5 years. To be completely paid back for this school board would take 6 years. So if the school board were to front the money, there would be 100% payback in 6 years' time through private donations, and that's pretty sweet. Anytime the school district can get an expense to be picked up through some type of method like this, it made me think that maybe we should sell some sponsorships on our buses, and maybe somebody could pick up the tab on the school buses. But the here and the now is the scoreboard. So Andy's done a lot of legwork into all this here. I'm going to ask Andy to jump in and just kind of talk about that and why Daktronics. Andy, I'll turn it over.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. As far as why Daktronics, there really are two of the premier scoreboard companies that people purchase, is Daktronics and Nevco. We actually have boards from both companies. On the football field, it's Nevco. The new West Gym, those boards are Nevco. The old North Gym is Daktronics, and then baseball, softball, and soccer are Daktronics. All have been very, very quality boards for us over the years. When you go from a standard scoreboard to a scoreboard / video board, Daktronics jumps ahead as far as quality. They are considered to be the best in the industry. All the top boards in our area are Daktronics, Lambeau Field, Camp Randall, the Fiserv Forum. The only one that's not is Brewer Stadium. They do something different there. It's like a Samsung, more of a TV type of thing rather than a scoreboard, video board. Big Ten, everybody that neighbors us, Illinois, Northwestern, Iowa, Minnesota. And then in our conference, as far as high schools go, there are 3 schools that currently have video scoreboards. It's Arrowhead, Muskego, and Oconomowoc. All 3 of those boards are Daktronics. The Oconomowoc AD is new, so I didn't call him because his board went in before he started, but I talked to both Arrowhead and Muskego, both named Ryan, by the way, and I asked those guys if they bid out their scoreboards when they did it, and they both said the same thing, that they did not, that Daktronics is the superior video board, and that was the only company that they reached out to when they did their boards. I think Arrowhead made a comment that if you're going to spend $500,000, go with the best and not wish that you had done something different. Some of the other cool things about Daktronics, Daktronics has a curriculum that they provide with the purchase of the board that our students will use. So in our sports marketing class, as well as our AV club, we're going to be teaching our students how to, and shortly thereafter they'll teach us how to use the video board, create content for the video board, so that the games and activities that happen out on that board, a lot of what you're going to see is going to be produced by our students. Daktronics tells stories of students. They gave one example of a student at Oak Creek who learned everything about running a Daktronics board, and everything he learned was exactly what you need to know to run the board at UW-Madison. And he got a job when he was a student there immediately because he was already trained on the technology, which is really cool as well. The other nice thing with Daktronics, it's works as part of we have a exclusivity clause or a agreement with a company called BSN, which we buy all of our uniforms from, as well as our spirit packs. And we're a Nike school, as most of you know. As part of that deal, we get a kickback based on how much we purchase every year. In purchasing this scoreboard, that will be part of our deal. We'll get 7% back from BSN that we can use for hard goods, so buying supplies for athletics, whether it be balls or equipment of some sort that we need, uniforms. They also do branding. So if you've been into high school, there's branding all over the school, and we're constantly updating those things. We can use that kickback money for any of those types of things as well, which we wouldn't have if we went with another company. And then just the service at Daktronics has been amazing. Tom and I have gone out and done some sales pitches, 3 different businesses individually, and then we did a presentation at Morningstar Golfers Club where we had a number of business owners at that event. And our sales guy, Chris, from Daktronics joined us for all those presentations. He's willing to do more. I know when we've had service calls, Daktronics has been fantastic to work with. I wish Zach was here. He kind of oversees that type of stuff, and he's preferred working with them over Nevco, who's our other provider. So that's why Daktronics.
So on, excuse me, on the screen right there, then we have, what the proposed scoreboard would look like. There's 2 anchor partners up top. Those have been committed to, and then there's 5 founding partners on the bottom, and 4 of those 5 have been committed to. In addition to the 2 up top and the 5 below, there's 12 what we call premier partners, which is basically those individuals would get video commercials played pregame, halftime, postgame, at certain spots throughout the game. That as a cost of, there's room for 12 of those. We have 3. Another one jumped in today, so we have 9 of those, which is essentially $1,500 a year, or $7,500 in total for 5 years. So we feel, given that the majority of the large dollar ones are committed, and they might all be committed. As I think about this, we're waiting on just a couple other entities to answer back. I think fair to say we feel pretty confident about selling those premier partnerships that we have outstanding at $1,500 a year for 5 years. I guess again to summarize and hopefully answer some questions that folks might have in the room. Daktronics' commitment to acquiring sponsors, they've been really instrumental in this. I'm not sure that other scoreboard partners are providing the support to meet with others to say we're going to help you pay for this. They have a great track record in doing that, which obviously when sponsors are paying the school's bills, that really helps our taxpayers. The academic component of the board, which will fit into a sports marketing and entertainment course, which is one of our career and technical education courses at Mukwonago High School. Zach Ortiz will probably lead this. I shouldn't say probably. Zach's going to lead this, and he knows that. But essentially, there will be a transition where students will take over that, and it'll be our students who are running this on Friday nights and other large events, and that really kind of coincides with an academics. And then lastly, Daktronic has superior products, as Andy said, and Arrowhead's comments there. If you're going to do something, do it right. Spend the money once and get it done correctly. So I think it's ultimately, Andy, it's been about 2 or 3 years. I think 2022 is when we started to research the eventual replacement. So here we are. So I guess what we have in front of us tonight is, if you're comfortable, we can move forward. The only contingency I would ask that we have to be aware of, and I have that in my memo, is the Village of Mukwonago Plan Commission needs to approve this. We're hoping to just put it right where you see it on the screen right there, but they might have an issue with it facing County Road NN. So if that's the case, we might just have to find an alternate location and whatnot. So if you're comfortable, we can proceed with the purchase, and then the payback would take 5 to 6 years. And then it would be just contingent on the Village Planning Commission approving it. If you guys have any questions, we'll answer them all right now.
We have to wait for a motion. Sorry.
Oh, yep, sure.
Well, I make a motion that we move forward with approval for purchasing the scoreboard with district funds with $515,000 to be raised via sponsorship and repaid to the Mukwonago Area School District over an approximate period of 5 years. Well, it says 5.
She said,
I'll answer that question when, well, go ahead.
so she said approximate. So
Yep.
we're right there.
I'll second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions or comments? Mr. Gooch?
I'm just curious if for some reason they do not approve the current location, what's the additional cost to move it somewhere else, since the current location has all the hookup there for power?
Yeah, so as far as the power goes, yes, I know fiber optics they're going to have to run as well. So and Tom, you might know more than this on this question, but I think it's fairly similar. If we had to go to the other, the north east corner, I think would be the other option. The village would have to approve that as well because it would be much closer to the road. Then you wouldn't see it; you'd see the back of it. So we'd have to get their approval on that as well. I don't think it's a huge difference, but I don't have the exact numbers. I could get that for you.
So the picture that you have here, and I'm sorry, this wasn't really made for a presentation here, but channeling electrical work, you know, so here's the stadium, here's the TP where the clock operator and the scoreboard operators are, that's the east side. We take fiber optic runs along this route here to the concession stand.
Yes.
So we ultimately take it south to the TP and then furthermore down to where this is here. I think if we were to move it somewhere closer to the TP or to the, you said, Andy, the northeast corner here, that would probably cut our costs down, to be candid. Where it's currently situated is probably the furthest away where we have to run the electrical supply and the fiber optics. So my educated guess is that it would get cheaper if we had to move it.
No, I'm happy with that answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Crosby?
I think you said we would repay it in 5 to 6 years, right?
Yep,
What is the lifetime of a scoreboard like this?
10 to 15.
So we would have opportunity to make money from it.
So what I would recommend to this, what I would recommend is that the first 5 or 6 years is ultimately the district's payback. And then the next 5 or 6 years goes into a sinking fund to pay the next replacement of this. And ultimately, you never have to buy a scoreboard again. Others will do it for you.
Okay. And then did I hear correctly that we would get 7% back for, what is that for again? Is that equipment and things like that?
Yeah, it's not in cash. It's to be spent through BSN to purchase uniforms, equipment, branding type things as part of our kickback program.
So if my math is mathing, that's almost $44,000 that we would get back to spend.
It doesn't include the installation, the electric, all that kind of stuff. It's the board itself, but it'll be in the 30s.
7% of 483,000 then.
Okay, I was using the wrong number then. But
There's
that's
the math
still
guy
a
over
good
there.
chunk of money to pay for uniforms and equipment and all that other stuff.
Correct.
Okay.
Jake?
The two scenarios that you just went over for placement, Tom, is there a reason we would want it where it is? Where the scoreboard currently is now versus the closer location?
Andy, I'm going to look your
So-
direction here. Go
Because the
ahead.
Yeah,
less
so
expensive
the-
option actually seems better to me.
The current location or the northeast corner would be the traditional locations for a scoreboard. Obviously, you need both sidelines to be able to visually see it as the game is going on, so you can't go like behind. You know, if you go closer to the TP, but still on the south end here, now it's behind our bench. You can't see it as you're coaching the game. So those are really the two options.
So it's really down by the Indians.
I think it was-
Mukwonago.
Yeah, I think, and that scoreboard's been here longer than I can remember, or that location anyway. But I think originally they put it there because it's further from the road and it's not quite as in your face as you drive by. Because it would be really close to the road with that little bit of parking there and then the board in that northeast corner.
Thank you.
Vertsy?
So, ever since I've been on the board, we've had citizens complain about the speakers at the stadium. Lacrosse, youth football, soccer, football, everybody that uses it had a complaint with speakers. Will this take care of our speaker problem?
So
Yeah.
if you've been to Muskego for football games, there's no problem hearing everything there. And it's the same thing. It's built into the scoreboard and it's much more powerful than our current system as well, yes.
Is it around, are there speakers around the
Where
facility?
it says
or-
Hensler Field, that's
Yeah.
your speaker.
That's the speaker there.
Correct.
Yep, so this
Must come
is
a long
a
way.
Yep.
video board, scoreboard, speakers all rolled up together. Yep.
Crosby?
Does this work well in the sunlight? Because if we're looking at maybe repositioning it, I just want to make sure that we don't drop all this money and then we can't see it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it will show up just fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Jake?
I thought we had talked about potential for like an extended warranty or something on this, just so we would know what the cost would be over 10 years or something to that effect. I don't, did we, have we looked into that at all?
I don't know anything about an extended warranty.
Yeah,
That's an
Jake, I'm
option.
sorry, that, I guess we can look into that. I don't have an
be
answer, and if I
It's
miss
a
something, I
5-year, it's a
apologize.
5-year warranty is their standard. I don't know if there's an extended option.
Within the panels on the screen area, it's, they come like in rectangular sections. So if one section goes out, you simply replace that section, not the entire video board. So it's built for replacement pieces to be, for them to come and go as needed. But I guess I would have to get back to you on that. I don't have an answer. Sorry, I didn't anticipate that. I apologize.
Okay.
Crosby?
We're talking about the sports marketing class and the other educational opportunities. How many students do we anticipate that will impact?
Don't know that either. Yeah, that would be more a Dustin Lehman question as far as how many kids he has in those classes now, but I really think that our kids, a number of our kids will get really excited about creating this content.
Okay.
Whether it's the kids creating TikToks in our hallways, which they don't do anymore because we don't have phones. Maybe after school they still do that. But I mean, they love doing that kind of thing, and that's definitely what this is. Our MTV announcements that they do during the school day, the kids really enjoy that as well. So we're not gonna have a problem getting kids that are excited for this class,
Okay.
but as far as how many that is without offering it,
So there is
Couldn't
room to expand what the video board can do. So as they talk about like the future careers in the field that such a board can provide to students, we can expand this to have, on the field cameras and play-by-play announcers. We could be changing, video shots from, whatever, sideline A to sideline B, or to an aerial shot, whatever it might be. So this is definitely going to be a crawl, walk, run rollout of what the board can do. But I think as we get better at managing, the board itself and getting the kids to know what the board's capable of, I potentially would see this being more and more popular as time goes on. I don't know how to answer that specifically, though.
So you're saying it might be too complex for Verts?
I'm saying it is. That's exactly what I'm saying, as a matter of fact.
you could handle it, Dale, but no way Craig could.
Carolyn?
Speaking of that, Craig, are we freeing up time with Zach in order for him to take this on?
Oh, he's excited.
Andy will
I
take
know
care
he's
of that.
excited. I just want to make sure that he's going to have the bandwidth.
Yeah, and he knows, and one of our goals is to get installation in June, hopefully done in June, so we have a month and a half to create the content and then practice with it. Our first football game is mid-August, so we want to be ready to go for that. But yeah, Zach is fully aware that there's some work involved in this, so.
When Zach interviewed here a number of years ago, the one thing he said is that he had a background personally in music, and he said there's nothing worse that when the lights are on and everyone's looking at you and the microphone doesn't work, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So Zach understands the importance, and he's the right person to really direct this for us. So I have a supreme confidence in Zach Ortiz in that regard to help us make this thing great in year one. So the reason we're asking this right now, if I didn't say that before, I'll say it right now, is we to place the order on, if this goes through on March 10th, then on March 11th we call and we say let's make this happen as soon as possible so that we're ready to go by mid-August and have this thing ready to roll here we got 6 home games this year, which is, last year I think we had 3, and now we're flipping that. 6 out of 9 are at home, so we would like to be ready by the start of the season.
And that's just varsity football. Last year, Zach and I went through, it's 63 events on the turf. Some small events like a freshman football game where maybe you have 100 people, and then huge events like I don't think we had the egg drop last year from Brook Life, but I mean there's thousands of people when they do that, and we can incorporate the board and those types of things as well, which our advertisers or our sponsors seem to think they were really excited about. So we guesstimated about 50,000 people in that stadium each year.
Nice. Crosby?
If we were to not do a video board, we were going to do just a regular scoreboard.
Yep.
Is there an opportunity to pay for it in sponsorships? Or would we not get enough money in order to pay it off?
So the cost of a replacement and getting a similar was $150,000, give or take. That's the number that Daktronics gave. So if we were to do something similar, could we get $150,000 from individuals for sponsorship on that board? Man, that's a question for the business community. They're the ones who speak with their checkbooks, and I don't know if they would be willing to. Perhaps, but you're asking me to speak for others. That's obviously I'm gonna be guarded when I do that.
So our current board, we do have one sponsor on Citizens Bank, sponsored that years ago when they put it in. It's just a fixed box underneath the scoreboard, and you could certainly do something like that. I don't know if you could sell 19 different sponsorships like you can with the video display, but I think you could certainly do a few fixed, and then the eyeballs are on it during games when somebody's looking at the score.
Right.
Any other questions?
So, forgive me, I'm new to this topic. Are there any other concerns with the Planning Commission for Mukwonago as far as outside of just the two locations? There's no issues with size or anything that goes with this board outside of those locations?
None that I'm aware of at this time, but the Plan Commission will let us know if there's some issues. And if there is some issues, we come back on March 17th and we discuss whatever. So we'll make this whole effort contingent on the Plan Commission saying, good to go.
And that's why we're holding off to order it until we get, obviously, their approval, because there could be concerns that we're not aware of until we get in front of them.
Any other questions?
Last one.
Carolyn?
For the previous scoreboard or the scoreboard we currently have, I know we had talked about repurposing it, gifting it, donating it, something, giving it to an elementary school. I know she's limping along right now. It could be a huge investment for somebody and then just not work, but what are our options for?
So I would say that given the life expectancy of that, like a used car, it's kind of reached its end of useful life. At some point, there's one mechanic from that services that board in the Great Lakes area, and the replacement parts simply really don't exist anymore. So if we were to gift that to somebody, it would kind of be a buyer beware or a donor beware type situation. Like we can't really validate or give it a warranty that it's going to last.
Right.
It's definitely got a limited lifespan left.
You could put it on, we put things on our auction site from time to time. It's something you could put on there. The controller itself is discontinued. We have multiple because it's the same controller that we have in the West Gym right now. So we're fine. But that might be a concern for somebody, but you could try to auction it and get a few bucks for it for sure.
The last time it was fixed, I believe Zach Ortiz stole components out of a controller in the West Gym to use it there. You can kind of see where that's headed. We could certainly make that effort, most definitely. If we can use it for the middle school, we'll do that. But I just don't want to raise expectations on that,
Right.
just to be totally candid, right?
Understood.
I think it would look great in Vertz's backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
This is my last one.
Gooch?
Can you just please clarify the Planning Commission? Is that to get approval for just where it currently is, or is that also potential approval for the alternate site?
We would go in asking for approval of the current location. They may advise us that that's not going to be approved and tell us to reconsider, at which time we'd have to shift
So
gears.
would it save time to ask for approval for both places, both sites? Because
I'm not an expert on going to planning commission, so I
So
maybe defer to Tom.
Our friend Kurt Wiebelhaus, who helps us with our referendum work, is giving us an assist on this one right now, since he works with the Plan Commission in many ways as it relates to all of our building needs and particularly our referendum. He put us on the agenda and is helping us move forward in that area. Bottom line is we're trying to put this thing in the stadium and the location that makes the most sense to meet our needs and satisfies the village. I would be shocked if we were the one community in Waukesha County that says that can't belong here. It seems to be fitting in perfectly in other Heartland, Muskego, Oak Creek, Franklin, other area communities. So I don't anticipate that they're going to push back, but we're going to be asking the questions so that we can move forward, whether it's option A, option B, or option C. Did I answer your question?
I think at the very end you did, but I didn't want to confuse you. I'm just saying if you're going to go in, I don't know how those work either. You're saying we'd want approval for the spot it's at right now. Nope, you can't have it. Okay, now do we have to wait weeks to start over and say, how about the other spot in Northwest or whatever you said? Or are we going in saying we want to know all the options where we can put it? Because then if we do have approval for both options, I don't know how long it would take to find out what the savings is on fiber optics running 100 yards down the other way. And I'm not an expert. Maybe that's a couple $1,000s. But if it's like 90,000, maybe we want to put it closer to save 90,000.
If it's a huge savings, yes, I think you have to consider the aesthetics of it all as well. If you have that huge back of a scoreboard that close to the highway as people are driving by, I don't think it looks as nice. I mean, you can throw a logo or something on the back of it to try to dress it up, but I do think the current location is the spot to go. As far as the planning commission and how we go in with options, Tom and I can certainly talk about that with Kurt
Sure.
to make sure we're ready for that meeting.
If there's anything additional that materially changes between, getting the scoreboard, putting it in its current location, we'll come back on March 17th and say, here's what we learned on March 10th. Your call now, where should we go next? So we can bring anything back that warrants more decision-making, we'll bring it back to you guys.
Any other questions? All right, there's a motion to approve the scoreboard and moving forward. Any more questions or comments? Nope. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion is approved. Moving on to unfinished business, superintendent's report.
Yeah, we are now at the end of February, and we got kind of an exciting time ahead for winter sports at the high school. With wrestling, state wrestling coming up this week, with the tournaments coming up for the other sports in the weeks ahead, basketball, hockey, gymnastics, and such. So really looking forward to see what our athletes can do, and we wish them well. Also want to acknowledge the MHS Building Trades class. They won the Next Gen Trades Challenge a week ago. Remarkable accomplishment. We thank the teachers, the students who were involved, and Dustin for his leadership in there. And just one reminder, we haven't had policies on the agenda for a while. Just give you guys a bit of a heads up to buckle up in March. If you are having a hard time sleeping at night, I've got an aid to insomnia coming your way. So expect that coming up here in the next couple of weeks. Just as a reminder, our policy, given that we're going to have a lot of them coming up, we'll probably put them on the agenda for both the committee of the whole and then the whole board. And then there will be one or two policies that we'll have the whole board tend to in March if there's no questions or revisions needed. And then we'll take that whole policy book then, or not policy book, but that substantial number of policies forward at the April meetings then for approval. So they don't all have to be read in a 1 week period of time.
All right. Up next, we're going to have executive session. According to Wisconsin statute 19.85, we are going to be talking about the superintendent evaluation and school safety. So looking for a motion to close the open session and go into executive session.
Make a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
Jason?
Here.
Mike?
Yes.
Jake?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dale?
Yes.
Eric?
Yes.
Carolyn?